Imagine America in a James Bond movie as a truck loaded with a nuclear bomb, with Bond and the villain in the front seat duking it out for control as the truck speeds toward a mountain cliff. Just seconds remain before someone has to turn the wheel to avoid certain disaster. That's the sort of analogy that's been used to paint the picture of America's fiscal cliff. Now we're just 13 days before going over the edge. Does it pose a fiscal doomsday for America's teetering economy? We'll ask the experts, Republican strategist John Tiene and Democratic strategist Michael McKoy. I feel you laughing there. But given that analogy, where do we sit? How close are we there?
I'm trying to figure out if the Republican is James Bond or the Democrat is the villain. I think we're getting there. I mean, the last 24, 48 hours has been huge, huge steps taken. Friday night, the Speaker of the House offered to do a tax on millionaires. That kind of broke the ice, and now things seem to really be going after fits and starts since the election. You know, the President election night said we're gonna do this, and then the positioning and the pandering started, and now it seems I think we're going to get there.
You get a sense, Michael, that each side realizes the gravity of this, and that politics has to be pushed aside.
Yeah, and I think that if we, you know, off camera, I was trying to think the best way to phrase this. One of the effects, and I hesitate to use the word positive, but one of the effects of this terrible tragedy in Connecticut has been we've all just sort of stepped back. I think everyone in Washington stepped back and said, what are we really fighting about? And is this a time where the country wants to be divided over these petty things? And so, you know, as John mentioned, the Speaker came forward offering $1 million. They actually have, the President, you know, it seems to be the number they're going to go at is 400,000. That they'll let the Bush tax cuts expire, 400,000. The rest expire. Maybe go up to 500,000. Not clear. And having about equal spending cuts and revenue at about 1.2 trillion.
There seems to be some measure of negotiation going on. The president raising the level of income at which he's going to impose higher taxes, and the Republicans saying, okay, we're going to drop the level of cuts that we want to see in social services.
Well, they're getting. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, you've got half the budget is Social Security and Medicare.
Right.
Somewhere along the line, we've got to deal with those. And initially, the Republicans said, let's raise the eligibility age for Medicare. The president now is talking about fixing and working on the inflationary cost of living increase for Social Security. And now we've got a real discussion. And this was not easy. I mean, this has gone on for, as we know, a month and a half of back and forth since the end of the election. Democrats putting up campaign-style ads to villainize the Republicans, and of course, then the Republicans did the same. But now it seems, as we get closer to the cliff, as the truck is getting closer, picking up a little speed, cooler heads are prevailing. I do agree that I think this tragedy in Connecticut kind of brought some cooler heads to prevail. The president was out campaigning about that. He's pulled that back. Now he's not out. It's behind the scenes, quiet. I think we're going to get there. And it looks like the president's also looking for a 2-year agreement on debt ceiling to raise that. He wants to get past the 2014 election on the debt ceiling debate. So they're trying to wrap that in, along with some other longer terms. This may be a substantial agreement.
At least a beginning.
Well, it could be significant if Congress can agree on debt ceiling for 2 years, if they can deal with raising about $1 trillion in additional revenue over 10 years and about $1 trillion in cuts over the same period. That's a significant. I mean, you've made some real progress on some real issues that just may allow the country to move forward.
But I think we're going to really see where this all goes probably by this afternoon, because reports saying that Speaker Boehner is going to be meeting with his conference this morning, probably around 9 or 10 o'clock, and we're really going to see now the reaction of the Republican conference, because, you know, the narrative has been that Speaker Boehner, President Obama have for a long time wanted to come together. That Speaker Boehner, at least, you know, it said privately is willing to do increased revenues. The president understands that our sort of structural debt around Medicare, around Social Security there needs to be reform there for the long term. So the two of them as people have never been that far apart. I mean, the difficulty has always been the respective conferences and caucuses in the House. Now the Democratic caucus is more willing, at least out in front, to get behind the president. At least that's what they've said. So I think we're really going to know where this is going by this afternoon. I mean, if the Republican conference says we will back Speaker Boehner on making these deals for equal revenue, equal cuts, it seems like it's going to be, again, a little over $1 trillion, then I think we're going to see a deal before Christmas. If the Republican conference rejects that, then I think that, you know, yes, we will see the Republican bill.
I was going to ask you, does Boehner have the toughest job here?
Yes.
At the end of the day, this is about the president. He's the only nationally elected official we have. He is the president. Now, the congressmen are elected in individual districts. The president's going to have to step up. If Boehner's willing to put pressure on his people, willing to take a stand as the leader of his caucus, the president's also going to have to sit down and make some compromises and some deals, if you will, to get it done.
But as Mike said, the president had already made some of these same compromises earlier on, 2 years ago?
Some,
Boehner,
but the president's
Boehner was under
been
pressure by the
the president's been focused on tax increases and not so much on the spending.
But remember, this is also the party that, in their Republican debate said, we will not even take a deal 10-to-1. Cuts to new revenue. Right. So I think you're right. The president, obviously, the national leader, no question about that.
He's got to do it.
But these are laws that have to pass Congress. I mean, this is not a dictatorship. Can't do it by fiat. This is a budget that needs to pass Congress, and if congressmen won't vote for it, there's nothing really.
But he's the president, and he can influence congressmen.
He can do the exact campaign. He can do the exact campaign that you were sort of criticizing him for. He can go across the country.
He doesn't need to go across the country. He needs to bring congressmen into his office and listen. You want that additional spending in your district? Fine, you're going to vote for this.
Well, unfortunately, the Republican Congress got rid of earmarks, so he can't do that now.
They still earmark. He's got to be the president.
Not as much as they could be.
At the end of the day, I think this is going to get done.
Now, let me ask you politically: if it doesn't, who loses?
I really do think at this point it's going to be the Republicans because it's
spoken like a Democrat.
Yeah, spoken like a true Democrat.
Because I think the president can always go forward and say, "I offered this." This will be decided by the end of the day. That's sort of my prediction here today. That if the Republican conference says, "Okay, again, equal cuts, equal revenue, let's do this over $1 trillion," it'll be done by the end of the day. If it's not done by the end of the day, it's because the Republican conference rejected it.
The Republicans were the ones that came to the table and said, listen, we'll back off our no tax pledge. That was a major shift.
Few Republicans have said that.
That was a major shift in Washington.
If the Republican conference says that, I completely agree with you. But if the Republican conference does not say that, it'll be on their plate.
It's always if this doesn't happen, both. The president loses credibility as the leader, and the Republicans lose credibility for not working. But they both have a lot to lose here. And I think they're finally realizing it.
I'll end with an agreement. I do agree. They both will. That I'll agree with. They both will lose. I believe the Republicans will lose more. But if Washington is in chaos, no one comes out of this.
This is the president's. He's becoming a lame duck. He's not running again ever. He can't lead and get compromise on this. He's not going to be able to lead and get compromise on anything else. So he's got to step up and be the president, bring in those congressmen into his office, talk to them, and find a way to get those votes. I think he'll do it.
All right, we'll leave it at that, and let's hope the truck doesn't go off the cliff. We won't say who's the villain or who's Bond, but we'll leave that for the next discussion.
We all know the villains.
James Bond looks pretty good, I think.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.